Your phone lights up. You see the name, and before you've even had a full thought about it, your body reacts. Your chest tightens. Something in you pulls back. Not because you hate this person, not because you don't care. It's just that the call feels like too much, too fast, all at once. So you let it ring. You tell yourself you'll text in a minute. Say you were busy. Say you missed it. Say anything easier than the truth. Because the truth is hard to explain. For some people, a ringtone creates a kind of pressure other people barely notice. Not panic, just sudden resistance, like your mind was in one room and the call kicked the door open without knocking. And, if that's you, you've probably treated it like a flaw. But it usually isn't, because avoiding phone calls is rarely just about the call. It's about what the call demands from you, and how instantly it demands it. Here's what most people don't understand about phone calls. They require your full presence immediately. A text waits, an email waits, a phone call doesn't. It expects you to be mentally available, emotionally responsive, and verbally coherent with almost no transition time at all. That sounds small until you think about what a call actually asks you to do. You have to listen, interpret tone, predict where the conversation is going, regulate your reactions, decide what to say, and say it out loud in real time. No pause button. No editing. Psychologists would describe part of this as cognitive load. Your brain is handling multiple demands at once. And phone calls stack that load in a specific way. You're working with voice only, which means you've lost the visual cues that normally make communication easier. No facial expressions, no body language. Just tone, timing, and the pressure to keep the interaction moving. And then there's the uncertainty. A text usually tells you what it wants. A call doesn't. You don't know if it will last 20 seconds or 40 minutes. You don't know if it's casual, emotional, awkward, urgent, draining, or full of small talk. Your brain is being asked to prepare for every version at once. That unpredictability matters more than people realize. When something feels undefined, the nervous system often defaults to caution. Sometimes that looks like hesitation. Sometimes it looks like dread. There's also something people rarely say out loud. A call doesn't just ask for your attention, it takes over your attention. The moment you answer, whatever mental space you were in before is gone. For some people, that barely registers. For others, it feels invasive. Here's the part most people get wrong. Avoiding phone calls does not always mean you want less connection. Sometimes it means you want connection with more room to think. People who avoid calls are often labeled cold, distant, or antisocial. But a lot of the time, they're almost the opposite. They are highly self-aware, highly self-monitoring, highly sensitive to tone, timing, and how they come across. And because of that, live conversation can feel strangely high stakes. Research on self-monitoring and social anxiety helps explain why some people experience real-time interaction as much more taxing than others. Not because they're fragile, but because they're processing more. They're tracking themselves and the other person at the same time. They're filtering words, managing tone, noticing pauses, and trying not to sound awkward while doing all of it. They are, in a very real sense, doing more work per conversation. And phone calls demand that work immediately. There's also something uniquely exposing about voice. Text gives you distance. Voice gives people access. They can hear your hesitation, your mood, your uncertainty. For some people, that kind of immediacy feels natural. For others, it feels like being emotionally visible before they've agreed to be seen. That's a big reason phone calls feel so intense. They don't just require response, they require unedited presence. And if you're someone who thinks carefully before speaking or needs time to find the right words, your body may experience calls less like casual communication and more like social ambushes. Not because you're weak, because your system has learned that immediacy can be expensive. Some of the people who avoid phone calls the most are not the least caring. They are often the people who care so much that they hate responding carelessly. They don't want to sound distracted. They don't want to say the wrong thing. They don't want to offer a half-present version of themselves to someone they actually care about. So instead of answering badly, they avoid answering at all. From the outside, that can look like disinterest. From the inside, it can be the exact opposite. This is why texting feels different. For many people, texting is not emotional distance. It is emotional regulation. A text gives you structure. It gives you breathing room. You get to read the message, understand the tone, think about what is being asked of you, and respond when your mind has caught up to the moment. Because for some people, communication is not hard because they have nothing to say. It is hard because they have too much awareness happening at once, too much concern for precision, too much internal noise between feeling something and saying it clearly. Texting softens that pressure. You can choose your words instead of tripping over them. You can take a minute without someone hearing the silence and filling it with assumptions. You can be thoughtful without seeming slow. That's why the idea that text is a lesser form of connection misses the point. For many people, texting is where they become more articulate, more considerate, more honest. That's why some of the people who hate calls write the longest messages. The kind that remember details. The kind that ask real questions. The kind that feel deeply present. They are not avoiding connection. They are choosing the version of connection that lets them be accurate. There is also an energy issue here. Phone calls do not just consume time. They consume immediacy. They demand a kind of full-bodied social presence that can feel disproportionately draining for people who guard their mental bandwidth carefully. So when your day already feels crowded, a ringing phone does not feel like a tiny request. It feels like someone asking to step directly into your mind while you are still trying to hold it together. So what does this say about you if you avoid phone calls? Probably not what people assume. It may mean you need a moment before responding, not because you are detached, but because you take communication seriously. It may mean your nervous system reacts strongly to unpredictability. It may mean you value clarity more than speed. You may be deeply social in the right context and still hate calls. You may be emotionally intelligent and still freeze when the phone rings. You may be caring, loyal, thoughtful, and still feel dread when someone wants your voice right now. None of those things cancel each other out. Caring and overwhelmed can exist in the same person. Warmth and avoidance can exist in the same person. Articulateness and hesitation can exist in the same person. That is not dysfunction. That is just the texture of a mind that does not move comfortably at everyone else's pace. And sometimes the shame around this runs deeper than the call itself. After enough missed calls and enough "why didn't you just answer" moments, you start to build a story about yourself. Difficult, weird, bad at being human. But that story is usually much crueler than the truth. The truth is simpler. You are not refusing connection. You are refusing a format that asks too much of you too quickly. So the next time your phone lights up and you feel that familiar tightening, don't rush to call yourself rude. Pause. Because maybe what you're feeling is not immaturity, not indifference, not some character flaw you should have outgrown by now. Maybe it's your brain reacting to immediacy, unpredictability, emotional exposure, and the pressure of having to become socially available before you are psychologically ready. That is a very different story. You are not cold because you prefer a message over a call. You are not selfish because you need a little warning before being pulled into someone else's emotional space. You are not broken because your mind works better with pause, reflection, and room to choose your words. You just experience this form of connection differently. Some people answer every call and still never really connect. Some people need silence first and then offer something real. If you're the second kind, there is nothing defective about that. You are not hard to love. You are not impossible to reach. You are just someone whose inner world needs a doorbell, not a battering ram. And that is allowed. If this resonated with you, subscribe for more videos like this, and leave a comment telling me how you actually prefer people reach you. Text, call, voice note, or disappear entirely.